Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. My name's Anah. The comments that you see here are my views, beliefs, opinions, and sometimes they are not even my fully formed views, beliefs, and opinions. However, they are my understandings. Please do retain an open mind and reflect on any of the content and your comfort levels. If your views differ, please feel free to leave a comment. Also remember, it is possible to disagree in respectful ways. My way is not necessarily your way and vice versa. You might also find that some of the content on this playlist in regard to spiritual or universal laws, it resonates with you, meaning it feels right to you, while other laws may not feel right or they may not feel comfortable. If this is the case, the information is either not right for you or it is not right for you right now, and it might never be right for you at any given time. It really doesn't matter. As an earthy and practical person, I can put my hand up with all honesty and say that I have at different times had the same feelings about some of the content in here, and with some of them I still have a level of skepticism within my viewpoints, but I choose to retain an open mind about the things that I don't fully understand for a few reasons. Firstly, because I believe it would be supreme arrogance to think that we all know all of the answers while we have a body, and because what is right for one of us is not necessarily right or suitable for all of us, and I choose to respect the differences. Please do leave your opinions, beliefs. Feel free to argue the points in a respectful way with any of the content on the slides and even my interpretations. And if you feel that you can add clarity around some of the content, we would all love to see it. Thank you. For now, though, let's explore the laws.
All creation is governed by law. The principles that operate in the outer universe, discoverable by scientists, are called natural laws. But there are subtler laws that rule the hidden spiritual planes and the inner realm of consciousness. Contained within these laws, or conditions, is the true nature of matter. Knowledge of these laws has an effect upon the mental urges. Mind is the builder. Stay in full mindfulness of the application of universal law as related to self and to others, and know that in love all life is given, in love all things move. In giving one attains, in giving one acquires, in giving, love becomes the fulfillment of desire, guided and directed in the ways that bring the more perfect knowledge of self as related to the universal, all-powerful, all-guiding, all-divine influence in life. Love is life. When we go back, merge with the God source, in some infinitesimal but profound way, we expand the mind of God. Our higher self always points the best and most perfect way, and it is ours to listen and choose or reject what we hear. It does not blame, but patiently tries again to show the perfect way, the loving way. All of creation pushes forth. We are ever becoming. Identity ever remains. Universal Law number 17, the Law of Divine Invocation, also known as the Law of the Right to Decree. This particular law exists for those working in service to others. Self-serving beings will find this law ineffective. This law allows the ascended realms to move from the confines of the law of non-intervention to act on our behalf. Add the phrase to your decree, under the law of grace, as this is an out clause which will not allow us to manifest or invoke anything which would be detrimental to our existence or not of the highest interest for all, and remain karmic free. In order for your decree to work, it must be invoked 3 times. An example, by divine decree, in the name of Yahweh, God, Jesus, ascended masters, healing angels, Mother Mary, my I am self, etc. And under the law of grace, I ask for, state your purpose or intention. It is done, and I thank you. Say the entire request 3 times, then let it go. Trust it is in higher hands.
So this is one of these apparently recurring situations where on the reread of the content in the paragraphs, I feel that I haven't been a pure channel back in the day when I originally created this document. Firstly, there's a lot to unpack here, and there is a rationale to the law of degree or divine order or invocation, whatever you want to call it. And the first point to pay attention to from my perspective is that the law is saying that the process of divine invocation and decree cannot be misused, because for the invocation to work, remember, we've got some words here. You can't see me saying quotation marks, but for an invocation to work, it is a divine decree, and the person must have aligned their will with divine will. So within the context of decree or an invocation, there is an acknowledgement, you may or may not be aware of this, that when we are working as service workers or working with energy, that we are aligning our will with divine will. And we understand that divine will is divine love, right? There is that sense of oneness. There's the aspiration to be of benefit to all of humanity and to some extent be selfless, actually. But at the same time, we're all individuals. We all have purpose and we have free will. And a person's free will is not necessarily divine will. So the difference between a service worker is that they align, they choose to live their life in accordance with divine will. Now, that's not an easy thing. And I'm not even going to go into that subject so much here, okay, because it's too big a subject to go into. We'll come into that at some particular point. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that I'm really good at it, okay? I think we all try. If we're on this pathway, we're all trying to do the best that we can within the circumstances and context of our lives. So there is an intention, I guess, there that we're living in alignment with divine will. Whether or not we do it well, obviously, that will be determined at some point in time. So anyway, what I perceive this law as saying is that if a person attempts to invoke in a way that is outside of divine will, that is, if it's to selfish ends, if it's of questionable intent, if it's self-absorbed or, potentially designed to be harmful to others, it's not going to occur. The intervention will not occur because there is another law of non-intervention, okay? And where is that one? Let me just have a look. Okay, so it's the law of non-intervention, and that's law number 62. And we'll be looking at that when we get to that particular point. But basically, under the law of non-intervention, we can do a divine invocation, but those guides and guardians of high vibration, they cannot act in a way that's harmful to anybody else. So you can ask, but it's not going to happen. They're not going to step in and intervene. So that is what I believe I was referring to when I said that there is an out clause. The out clause is not the law of grace, which is a separate law under number 34. The law of grace basically is the part that says that when you invoke or do a decree, it must be for the highest good of all parties. So if it's not for the highest good of all parties, then the divine invocation will not work and the divine beings will not intervene. So hopefully I've made that clear to you. So before I go on to the next stage, I just want to reiterate, these are my understandings, okay? These are my understandings and my beliefs. And the other thing I want to point out is, because if people are new to concepts around the divine and spirit and guides and guardians, I think it would be helpful for them to be reminded that they are our guardians and guides, and what they extend to us is unconditional love. So they never ever judge us for being, we're our worst judge. We judge ourselves badly if we feel that we've done the wrong thing, or we've made the wrong choice, or we made a decision that took us down an unhappy path, and we get frustrated with ourselves. But the guides and the guardians, they never get frustrated. They've got the patience of absolute saints, because, I make jokes about it. Basically, they, it really is indefinable. The love that they extend, it's kind of like there's no need for them to forgive us, because in their eyes, we don't do anything wrong. We just do things sometimes that aren't helpful to ourselves. So if anything, I think that rather than judge us or get angry with us, they probably sit down and cry beside us when things are really bad for us, until such time as we learn to ask and receive their help and guidance. And I really am a firm believer that on those days when you hit rock bottom, they are there and they do carry you through. But anyway, back to the Law of Divine Invocation. I'm going to give you a specific example of how it has worked in application to my own life with my own family. And it's an incident that happened many, many years ago, but it is so beautiful and it happened so quickly, it's worth the retell from my perspective. So it must have been about 2002 or 2003. I travelled to Perth with my children, and as I arrived into the city, now Perth, of course, is a city in Western Australia, my car died. Okay, now to put this into context, that was a miracle in itself because I lived about 700 kilometres out of Perth, driving through remote areas with 3 children in the car, stinking hot, middle of summer. If we broke down, it would have been a right drama is where I'm going. But I habitually, if I was doing long drives, and I know that sounds insane to people in Australia, it's not such a big deal. If you live bush, you do these long drives quite regularly. But anyway, when I used to do the long drives, I would wrap the car in this blue bubble of protection that I've talked about in, boundaries and protection video. I might put a link in if I remember that at the end of this. Anyway, I used to travel. So it was Christmas time. In Australia, Christmas is stinking hot, okay? And obviously every Christmas, everyone's finances are overextended. Now, for people that have just tuned into the channel and aren't aware, they won't know, but other people who've known me longer or who've been involved with the channel are aware that I had left an abusive ex-husband, and the abuse continued outside of the marriage for, well, basically the entirety of my children's childhood, where he attempted to financially control and psychologically and emotionally manipulate me, is where I'm going. And there seemed to be little regard to the impacts on the children, I might add. And this is very atypical behaviour of an abuser, by the way. So anyway, where the decree comes in was at this particular time, obviously I was financially strapped and I was due to receive my child support payment. That's what we call it over here. I don't know what they call it where you live, but basically the government gets the money and they give it to the mother to use for the child. We call it child support. So mine had obviously been trying to skip out and not pay it. The child support agency had tracked him down and informed him that he needed to start paying the child support to them or they would start deducting it from his wages. Now, a lot of men obviously don't like that, and he was no different. So he agreed that he would pay them monthly. Now, I knew because of his behaviour that he would be unreliable, and he would use the delays as a means to cause me distress. Now, I was correct about that, okay? So because they had only recently managed to hook in with him, there was no routine and rhythm to the payments coming through to me. So, of course, I was getting distressed. It was about 4 days until Christmas, and I was phoning up child support agency. I did believe that he had paid the money, but I also knew that the government agency would have been just being really slow. Anyway, bottom line was I called them up and they said to me, look, we can't pay you the money unless you can tell us the payment details because we haven't processed any payments come through. But of course, if your ex-husband can give you the details of the payment, how much, etc., you know what it's like, then we can process it and pay you. So I went, okay, all right, no worries, as you do. So, of course, I phoned him up, and him being the delightful person that he was and still is, he basically just turned around and said to me, not my problem, I've paid it, ha, 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 ha. Go suffer. He thought it was a big joke. And he point blank refused to tell me the payment details so that I could track the money down. And it was a case of, well, if the money doesn't come before Christmas, not my problem, go suffer. A really delightful gem he was. So obviously things became a bit heated. I got off the phone and I was particularly upset, as an understatement. My sister was just distraught for all of us because she knew the implications of it. And she said to me, what are you going to do? So anyway, I thought for a moment and I just said to her, I'm just going to practice what I preach, as you do. So I said, I'm going to go off and do an invocation. So I went off into my bedroom and I did a divine decree, and I called upon the angel of communion to open the gates to my receiving the information under grace and in the divine way, so that I could fulfill my role as a mother and give my children a pleasurable Christmas. Okay. So, anyway, where I'm going with this is I then walked outside because my sister was still outside. I've done the decree. I've walked out and she says, "So what now?" And I just said, "Well, what now? We wait." I said, "We just wait." I said, "If it's meant to be, we'll get the information that we need and the money will come through. If not, we just have to accept and deal with it, that, it's meant to happen. Everything's happening the way it's meant to be." But the beauty of this and why this is worth telling this story is because it probably was within about 15 minutes of me saying this to my sister that the phone rang. Now, I remember the humour between us at the time where she's looking at me and my phone's ringing and she's going, "If that's your answer, if that's the angel's work," and she says, "I'm real impressed," right? But anyway, I answered the phone and it was my ex's new girlfriend, and she didn't approach me aggressively, but she was approaching me defensively because clearly my ex-husband was a liar and he must have told her that I was accusing him of not paying the money. And she said, "I don't understand why you're saying that he hasn't paid you." She said, "When I can see right now he has. I've got the checkbook in my hand right now and I can see when he made the payment and how much and on what date." And I just said to her, "Is that right?" I said, "You've got the checkbook in your hand. Well, could you please pass that information to me?" Which she did. And I said to her, "Does he know that you've called me?" And she said, "No, he's gone to the shops." And she said, "Please don't let him know. Obviously, protection there." I said, "Not a problem. I'll keep your secret." But I then called the agency, and within an hour, you may as well say an hour at the very most of me putting in the invocation, if the money wasn't put into my account, I'm stretching the memory here, I was advised and informed that it would be in my account. So it was probably more like, in hindsight, I knew within an hour that the money would be accessible to me by, say, 6 p.m. that night. So where I'm going with this is how an invocation works. And the question obviously is, do you have your own experiences of invocation and miracles? Because I can tell you, we were so impressed. I was so excited. And obviously, Christmas turned out fine. And recalling this memory, of the divine intervention actually warms my heart. So we can look at this actual experience as having been very unpleasant because of what happened with my ex-husband. But the reality is it had a very happy ending, and it makes my heart sing thinking about the intervention. It was beautiful. So do you have an experience that you want to share with us? I mean, share the love. Anyway, for now, I'm going to leave that thought with you. Take care. Have a beautiful day, night, wherever you are. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.